I'm Douglas White, and I guess I'll talk a little bit about the work that brought me here to this exhibition, and perhaps about how that sort of feeds into or reflects sort of the creative process as I understand it. The work here at MANIFESTA is called Black Palm, and it's a work made from blown out truck tyres collected from the roadsides. It's a piece that started on a residency in Central America, in fact, which I arrived at with a very different idea of what I might be working on and working with. But when I arrived in this country on the very first bus trip, from the corner of my eye, I caught what I thought was perhaps the wing of a dead bird. There were lots of vultures in the air in their country, and I saw another and another, and very quickly realised that these strange black feathered forms were in fact the blown out carcasses of truck tyres that were littering the roads everywhere. And when these tyres blow out, they become transformed from these very inert forms to something wholly different. A material that's really alive somehow. The wire gets torn out of them and they become these strange organic forms. And I suppose that's what attracted me to them, and that's almost always how my project starts, with some kind of what I consider an uncanny sense of materiality, a thing that's both what it was and something entirely new. So I started to collect these forms. Actually, the first time I went out with a taxi driver, a very friendly taxi driver, who, when we just started loading them into his car, and then when we couldn't get them in, and some of them were big, like 2-3 meters long, we sort of loop them out of one window and they go over the top of the car and back in the other window. So after a few hours of this, his car was this bizarre hybrid sculpture of its own, kind of driving along the highways. And I started to collect them, and I was working on it in a pretty remote house. A very basic house, like in the forest, in the rainforest. We were sort of close to the border of the Belize and Guatemalan border. And there I'd be walking in the forest during the days, and you'd come across these sort of strange black apparitions within the forest, and they were the palm trees that were diseased. And in the forest, when the palms have disease, they burn them back. I guess it's a system of controlling the disease rather than cutting them down. And so over sort of the coming weeks, it became this very natural meeting of material and form and landscape and transformation. So the first one was made there very, very basically in the forest. We were working without electricity, so it was a case of bending some metal by hand and lashing it to a tree stump that was sort of concreted into the ground. And it was quite a short residency, so after a few weeks I left, and I left this new sculpture in the forest. But it was a feeling and a material that stayed with me, and I was invited to make a proposal when I got back to London, where I'm based. And it turned out to be very difficult to get hold of this material in the UK. You see blown out tyres. They litter the roadsides, also the motorways, but you can't stop and pick them up. And dealing with the highways agency or anything like that, there's so much red tape involved in it, because it's classed as a particular type of waste material. You need special licenses to handle it. So I ended up going back to Belize and renting a truck and just driving around, and ended up clearing the entire Belizean road system of all of the tyre debris, putting it all in a crate and shipping it shipping actually with fifes the first time, with the banana company, because it was the only direct boats between Belize and UK through this kind of established colonial trade route. And really in that process of collecting and shipping, you know, a new dimension kind of appeared in the work, and it was this kind of dialogue with colonialism and with colonial transits of materials and goods. You know, the first palm trees had obviously come over to Europe in the sort of 19th century as this kind of colonial desire for exoticism, and they came to Kew Gardens in London and the Botanic Gardens in Paris. And, you know, at a similar kind of time, the first rubber trees were also kind of taken from the Brazilian rainforest and brought over and experimented with, and so was born the rubber industry, which became this kind of global industry, which of course in turn gave rise to the tyres that I was working with, and now constitute this kind of blight on the landscape and the environment. You know, it's one of the hardest materials to dispose of. So, you know, through this impossibility of collecting the material I wanted in Europe, it kind of entered into this kind of slightly demented colonial journey of kind of a reversal, whereby I was travelling out and kind of cleaning the road systems to make these sculptures. And there's always been a part of me that kind of hoped that somewhere these sculptures might get bootlegged, you know, that other people might start making them and sort of selling them by the roadsides in Belize or other places, and that this species might kind of start growing up by itself and sort of spreading by itself. So, you know, maybe that's something that will happen. So far they have kind of spread to various places around the world, and it's, you know, a joy to have one here.